Do you too feel like all of your paychecks plus some is going towards your bills and you're making no headway on your goals? Today, we'll cover 5 ways you can get caught up and begin getting out from under your debts. Welcome to the Couple Money Podcast, the show where we share stories and advice on building up your marriage and wealth together. I'm Elle Martinez. Support for this podcast comes from Jumpstart Your Marriage and Your Money Masterclass. This course is designed to help you two get on the same page with money, dump your debt faster, and get you on the path to financial freedom. Sign up for the class today and get lifetime access. Just head over to couplemoney.com/jumpstart. I want to start off by saying thank you. I've been getting your emails and I really appreciate the fantastic questions and you sharing your wins. It's been wonderful and I'm grateful that I can help in some small way. And on this podcast and on the site, I try to find positive stories and offer practical ways to save more, get out of debt, and start investing for your future. But we're all at different points in our financial journey. Some of us might be working to pay off that debt as soon as possible, while others are saving up for their home, baby, or business. A few are exploring the option and possibility of financial independence, while some others have simplified their lives so they can travel together. Or you might be just starting your journey. Perhaps you've heard some of the stories here or on other personal finance sites and you want to join in. However, you're currently in a very tight spot with money. There's no wiggle room in your budget, so it's hard to get ahead in your payments. You're just trying to make the minimums. It's like being a doctor, dealing with multiple injured patients, trying to triage things with little equipment. It's stressful and you feel like you're just dealing with one crisis after another. Today, I want to give you some relief. The first step with any financial journey is making sure you're caught up on your bills and that you begin creating a positive gap between what you're making and your expenses. Jordan Goodman, America's Money Answer Man, is here on the show to share some ways that you can get the ball rolling to becoming debt-free. In this episode, we get into finding better rates on your credit cards and in some cases settling the debts, how to get out from medical debt, and what to do when you can't afford your car payments. Let's start off with your credit score. The reason you want to care about that is many times much of your finances are based on your score. And your score is based on your credit report. It's a record of how you're dealing with debts like credit cards, car loans, student loans, and mortgages. And you have 3 credit scores from each of the bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. When you take out a loan or open new credit, they will pull your report and get your score from one of these bureaus. It can also affect, depending on the job you apply for and the insurance company you work with, the rates that you get. Now, you would think with so much writing on it, these reports would be vetted and accuracy would be something you could count on. But that's not the case. If you feel like you're being unfairly denied better rates, it could be your credit report is inaccurate. You can check your report for free at annualcreditreport.com. And if you see an error, Jordan has a way to get it fixed.
Even if you find an error, it can be a royal pain to try to get it off.
Yes.
Okay? Now, there's a law called the FACTA law, the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, which in theory gives you the right to challenge an error on your credit report with the original creditor. And if they can't prove it's accurate within 30 days, again, in theory, it's supposed to come off your credit report.
Yes.
Okay? Now, the vast majority of creditors never get back to you within 30 days. I mean, this is not the business they're in, is helping people with their credit reports. They're into selling clothing or something, right?
Yeah.
So, but getting that to the credit bureaus and getting them to get it off can be a royal pain. The analogy I like to use, it's like there's an error in a book. Okay? You don't complain to the librarian there's an error in the book because they can't change anything. You have to complain to the publisher of the book, right? So in the version here, the publisher of the book is the creditor that put that erroneous material on in the first place, not the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus are publishing it, but they're not creating it. They're going to have to get back to the creditor in the first place saying, was she late or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a royal pain to do this. So a website that can help people do it is tourdecredit.com, Tourde credit.com. And that's what they do is they challenge errors on people's credit reports, go through this whole procedure, work at the credit bureaus to get it, and the average score can go up 50 to 100 points, which brings your interest rates down.
And if you want to do this yourself, I'm going to include links in the show notes with the process of how to dispute inaccuracies on your credit reports, as well as a sample letter you can use. And while that's going on, you'll want to look at your credit cards if you have them. For most people, they're your highest interest rate debt. And according to NerdWallet, the average household that has credit card debt has a balance of over $15,000. That is a substantial drain on your monthly cash flow. Now, this isn't a long-term solution, but for some, they find that getting lowest interest rates can give them enough wiggle room so that their payments are going more towards the balance versus the interest. You might be able to negotiate with your current credit cards to get that lowest interest rate, or you might have to do a balance transfer. Just be aware that those balance transfers aren't free.
You do not be having a card charging you 18% or 25% or your late 30%, some ridiculous amount. There's a free website, guide2creditcard.com, where you can get the best cards for your specific situation. Now, there are 0% bounce transfers, which can work as long as you pay on time and then pay it off before the interest rate jumps up.
Yeah. If you're drowning in credit card debt and your current cards aren't letting you lower your interest rates, even temporarily, or you can't qualify for a balance transfer, you may need to get some outside help.
If you have a lot of credit card debt at high rates, use a national, high-quality, nonprofit 501c3 credit counseling organization that'll consolidate all your debts into one payment at the lower interest rate, typically 6-7%. You make one payment to them, they pay the creditors, and you can get out of debt in whatever, 2-3 years, depending on how much debt you've got. And it's considered a neutral on your credit score. Officially by Fair Isaac, by the FICO score, it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt. But in the long run, getting out of debt is what's going to help.
Yes.
My favorite place there is called Cambridge Credit Counseling. They've been doing this for about 30 years. Their phone number is 800-897-2200. Their website, cambridgecredit.org. They're a 501c3 based in Massachusetts, but they work all over the country. So they've already got deals with Citibank and Bank of America and Chase and Wells Fargo to get rates of whatever, 6-7% you couldn't possibly get on your own. And there's two kind of people that they deal with. One is what I call the treading water crowd. They're not behind, but they're just making the minimums a little bit more than minimums. They're not getting ahead on their credit. And the second ones are what I call the sinking crowd that are getting behind.
Yes.
Late fees, over-limit charges, pound, interest rates soaring. So in both cases, they can help people get rid of over-limit charges and late fees and bring your interest rate down. And now you have one payment instead of many. And for a lot of people, that's the discipline they need. And even if you don't sign up for them, it's what's called a DMP, a debt management plan.
Okay.
Even if you don't sign up for it, they'll go through a whole budget exercise and tell you what you can do and so on. So it's a free service.
One expense that people put on their credit cards are their hospital bills. Even if you have a decent health insurance plan, before you hit that deductible, you might have some significant out-of-pocket costs. So what should you do if you are overwhelmed with the amount of medical debt that you have?
For medical debt, you want to use what's called the Healthcare Advocacy Organization.
Okay.
And what they do is they settle medical debt for pennies on the dollar. The people, a guy named Kevin Flynn in Philadelphia, I've known him for many, many years, and he works with the chief financial officer at a hospital or doctor's group. You as an individual who just had an operation, has all these bills, you don't know what to do. I mean, you just have a clue. He audits the bill in great detail and say, no, this aspirin should not have been $100. It should have been 10 cents or something, Goes through every little thing and challenges all these things. There's a duplication. There's tremendous errors in these medical bills all the time. So they challenge that. And then they make an offer, settle the whole thing for 20 cents on the dollar, whatever it may be. And that's the way to take care of medical debt.
Okay.
The website for that is healthcareadvocates.com.
Let's talk about car loans. Years ago, I made a mistake. As a working college student, I took out a car loan, and I really shouldn't have. The payments were a burden on my monthly bills. And you might be in a similar situation where you're stuck in a car loan that right now you can't sell it, but it is a huge chunk of your monthly expenses. Jordan has a suggestion that might be able to help you get some breathing room.
So a lot of people took on some really big, nice cars the last few years, but they have payments they can't really afford. Okay. So the solution is to change the maturity of your loan, extend it out so that you can get a lower payment and avoid the repo man taking your car in the middle of the night. That's not a fun experience, right? So here's a free website that'll help you do it. MyLoanGen, Gen, myloangen.com. And you go on there. It takes about 30 seconds. You put in your remaining car loan, interest rate, how many more months you have to go, the value of the car, and then you click submit. And then it gives you a little dial that you move it from here's where it is now. I'm making this up. I've got 3 years to go at $500 a month. If I move that dial out to 6 years, it's $150 a month. And the cars tend to last these days, you know. So you've now halved your car payment and made it affordable for you.
I'm personally not a fan of extending your terms as a permanent solution, but in extreme circumstances, it can be helpful to give you guys enough breathing room. Make sure you stick with your debt snowball or avalanche plan, so as you're knocking out your debts, you can eventually go back to that car loan so you can pay it off faster. I hope these tips help you out. Special thanks to Jordan Goodman. If you want to connect and learn more about him, you can visit him at moneyanswers.com. As always, I'll have resources and more in the show notes on Couple Money so you can get the ball rolling and start knocking out those debts. You may have noticed we left off 2 major expenses this episode, student loans and mortgages. That's because they're going to get their own episodes. We're going to do deep dives on those and how you can knock them out as soon as possible. Make sure you don't miss out those episodes by subscribing. I send out weekly updates on everything we release, as well as some behind the scene and exclusive stuff. Plus, it's free. Just head over to couplemoney.com/join. Our theme song was written and performed by Gentle Regime. Additional music by Lee Rosevere and Music for Makers. Finally, and most importantly, thank you again for listening to the podcast, but also sending in your comments, your ideas, and your questions. I want to make this podcast as helpful as possible. And if you think this can help another couple out, can you please share this episode? I hope you have a great week. Take care.